Welcome everyone to this evening's Berkeley County Board of Education meeting. I declare a quorum is present and that the media has been notified. At this time, I would take a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
We've got a motion to approve the agenda and it's been seconded. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. At this time, let us all stand. We'll have our prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May be seated. At this time, I would like to take just a moment and recognize our newest member to the board, the Reverend Julius Barnes. We are happy to have him on board, and he is replacing Miss Moore. We hate to see Mrs. Moore go, but we are just thrilled to have Mr. Barnes with us. Thank you.
I don't get that too often. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the public hearing June the 23rd, the regular meeting of June the 23rd, and the board workshop July the 17th and July the 18th?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes, again for the public hearing, which was held on June the 23rd, a regular meeting on June the 23rd, and then the board workshop occurred July the 17th and 18th. All of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. At this time, do I have a motion to approve the June 2015 Head Start Budget Expenditure Report, June 2015 Head Start Credit Card Report, the prospective new hires, revised mental health handbook, and the Child Development Coach job description?
You do, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I make the motion to approve the June 2015 Head Start Budget Expenditures Report, the June 2015 Head Start Credit Card Report, prospective new hires, revised mental health handbook, and the Child Development Coach job description as presented in agenda item number 5.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the June 2015 Head Start Budget Expenditure Report, the Head Start Credit Card Report, prospective new hires, revised mental health handbook, and the Child Development Coach job description. All of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Then the motion is carried. At this time, we will have the citizens' comments. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. The stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action or public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and the board chair does reserve the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to the guidelines. At this time, Mr. Jeff Ruhr, if you'll come to the podium. Jeff would like to discuss executive sessions.
Jeff Ruhr, Somerville, South Carolina, 100 Mepkin Drive. Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Superintendent Murray, and board members. A couple of months ago, I addressed this board about their executive sessions, and the information that you put on the agenda was not sufficient. I'm here again to address that same issue. Tonight's executive session on the agenda is a good example. For instance, you have student attendance appeals. You don't say how many. Discussion of employment matters, including appointment of administrators and update of pending matters. What pending matters? And legal advice, employment contractual matter. What contractual matters? According to a recent Supreme Court decision, and I've got copies from the Post and Courier to give each one of you, you are in violation of state law by the agenda that you put out tonight because it's insufficient information. After I give you these, I would expect that the executive sessions would be more detailed so the public would know exactly what you're talking about, and I thank you.
We've got 25 appeals tonight, Mr. Ruhr. 25. We'll be here till about 11 o'clock. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ruhr, I'd also like to thank you for the large font. Having turned 50 yesterday, I'm very appreciative of this. Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 7, which is the administration and facilities. Item for action is contract award for the Berkeley Education Center renovation project, and that's on Main Street. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Dr. Turner, members of the board. Tonight I bring to you a brief presentation and recommendation from the Architect Selection Committee for the Berkeley Education Center renovation project, also known as the Old Berkeley High School. A little bit about the process. An RFQ was posted on May 1st of 2015 with submittals due to our procurement office on June 1st. A total of 5 submissions were received prior to the deadline. All 5 firms have offices within the state of South Carolina. The submittal packages were reviewed by the committee and narrowed to 3 firms on Thursday, June 11th, 2015. The remaining 3 firms delivered presentations to the committee on June 18th. Those firms were Stubbs, Muldrow, Herron, LS3P, and Drakeford Architects. The committee members included Mr. Hayes, Mr. Jim Hayes, board chair, Ms. Sally Wofford, board member, Connie Myers, director of facilities, Crystal Queen, project manager, one of our project managers, James Thomas, the director of maintenance, Don Brown, the principal of Berkeley Alternative, and Dr. Lily Caldwell, the director of adult education, and myself. And the process was facilitated by the Berkeley County School District Procurement Department. All right, each of the 3 firms were judged on the criteria that you see before you, basically their ability of the design team, performance on similar projects, creativity, ability to obtain public input. As we know, this will be a very important project in the Berkeley County area, more specifically in Moncks Corner. So based on that criteria, the committee scored the firms, and the highest rated firm was Stubbs, Muldrow, Herron. So with that, it's the recommendation of the Architect Selection Committee that Stubbs, Muldrow, Herron Architects Incorporated be awarded the contract for the Berkeley Education Center renovation project as part of the school improvement referendum.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the recommendation of the Architect Selection Committee to name Stubbs, Muldrow, Heron Architects Incorporated as the architecture firm for the Berkeley Education Center renovation project as a part of the school improvement referendum.
I second that. We have a motion to approve Stubbs, Muldrow, Heron Architects for this project. All those in favor?
I got a question.
Okay, I'm sorry, discussion. Go ahead.
What exactly are we doing with this project? Are we just stabilizing the outer shell of the building, or are we doing a complete renovation to make the building usable again?
No, sir, the building will be usable again. That is part of it, to stabilize the building. But it will be completely renovated, not just stabilized, and an additional, I believe it's an additional 7,000 square feet will be added to the facility. The facility will be used for Head Start classrooms as well as adult education classrooms, with a multi-purpose room inside for, to be used for a multitude of purposes.
So they felt there was enough money in the budget to make the building safe again, based on, I remember a while back we had some surveys on earthquake, seismic studies and such, and at that time it was going to cost tens of millions of dollars, but we feel we got enough money in the budget now to make it completely safe?
Yes, sir, there was actually a study conducted, and there were, I think, three options brought forth. One was to just keep the face of the building and build all the way around it. The other was to completely renovate the building, tear it down to the ground, and build it from the ground up. And the other option was to actually keep the facility as it is, stabilize it, and add to it. That option actually came in lower than the other two,
All right. So it's going to be safe?
according to the architects. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
It was very well done. I'd like to thank the procurement team. It was a very efficient process. There was substantial information from all five, and there was really good discussion from the board members and the scoring process. It was very fair. It was very thorough, and I appreciate being able to participate. But it was a well-done selection process, and the procurement department did a very good job.
Any other comments? All right, then I'm going to back over the motion. The motion is that we approve the recommendation of the Architect Selection Committee to name the Stubbs, Muldrow, Heron Architects Incorporated as the architectural firm for the Berkeley Education Center renovation project as part of the school improvement referendum. All of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Then, Mr. Jackson, you have your approval.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Connie Myers to come forward with our construction update.
Yes.
It looked like mine, but it's not mine. Aha. Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Dr. Turner, and members of the board. I'm here tonight to give the quarterly construction update on our school improvement bond projects and fill you into what activities we worked on the last few months and what we're planned for the next few months. Welcome to summer crunch time. The characteristics of summer crunch include hot weather, a permanent crease in your hair from hard hats, long hours and weekend work, obstacles lurking around the corners, and a workforce stretched thin as we compete for resources with our neighboring school districts. Summer is the busiest time for facilities, and we do the most dirty, noisy, and hazardous work while our precious students are enjoying the beach, vacations, and family time. As of today, we have 13 calendar days before the teachers come back and 19 calendar days before the students come back. 5 of our 9 projects have portions of work to finish this summer. We are hoping to emulate the Women's World Cup soccer team and 5 completion goals by passing all final inspections. Here's the overall schedule. As you go down the list of projects, you will see 7 out of the 9 projects are in the construction phase, which is represented by the green bars. The blue bars show design, the red bar is their bedding stage, and the purple bar is property acquisition, and the last one, the gold bar, is for wetlands. In regards to the overall schedule, this summer period is the busiest summer yet, and summer crunch and heat seems to put people on edge. So our challenge is trying to keep everyone positive and keep them working towards the next task that leads to completion. The 5 projects that have some portion to be completed this summer are Nexton, Stratford High School addition, Cross High School Phase 2 auditorium, 5 renovated classrooms at Marrington Middle School, and Goose Creek High School new kitchen, cafeteria, and 3 classrooms. The construction team is focused on keeping their eyes on the ball and dribbling towards final inspections. Now we will look at each of the projects individually. Nexton Elementary School. Very happy to report we've completed our first new school on time and within budget. The South Carolina Department of Education issued approval for occupancy on May 28th. The wonderful ribbon cutting ceremony occurred on June 29th, and the school is open for business. Here are some pictures highlighting key spaces and elements. The capital projects team would like to thank everyone in the district for their help and support. Each BCSD department has touched this project in some way. We are grateful to be able to work in an environment where everyone harmoniously worked together in order to construct this beautiful school that we all can be proud of. Stratford High School has several parts to it. We've expanded the cafeteria, constructed a 2-story classroom wing with 13 classrooms, a sports medicine lab, and a new culinary arts lab. Building new schools is often easier than renovating and adding to existing school. This project has been a very difficult project to finish. However, yesterday we received wonderful news that the new 2-story classroom wing, which is the largest section of the project, has been approved by the state inspector for occupancy. Oops, wrong direction. There it is, okay. This next slide shows pictures of the corridor, expanded cafeteria, sports medicine lab, and culinary arts lab. We affectionately call Stratford Addition Project the Whack-A-Mole Project. Have you ever been to an arcade or Chuck E. Cheese where that ugly furry mole sticks up and you gotta take a club and whack it back down? Well, with the Stratford project, that's happened several times. The contractor has struggled with masons and sheetrock subcontractors not showing up. Both the water utility and gas utility companies took their time in hooking up the new services. We also have 2 more moles we are still chasing. First is especially gas valves that are installed in the culinary arts lab. These valves are important for life safety. If the fire suppression system is activated in the culinary arts hoods, these valves will automatically shut any gas to any equipment under the hood. These valves are on back order and are expedited, so we should be arriving them on Friday, July 31st. The other ugly mole we're battling is a panel for the new wand fire door, which was found to be damaged beyond repair when the installation started a few weeks ago. Another panel had to be refabricated, and it arrived on July 24th and is being installed this week. This 3-hour rated horizontal sliding door is especially useful for wide span openings and is being used on this project to separate the existing lobby area from the new expanded lobby area. The state inspector is scheduled to come back to Stratford on August 7th to witness the operation of the gas valves and the wand door. We expect to whack the final mole at that time and get occupancy on the remaining spaces. Cross High School Phase 2 is still completing the work, which expands the auditorium into the old media center space. We also added some new scoreboards, acoustical panels, and graphic artwork to the gym. The auditorium went from seating capacity of 397 to a new capacity of 578. Some flexible auditorium seating similar to fold-out bleachers are also being installed, so this space can be a multi-purpose space with or without seats. The contractor passed the overhead inspection on July 17th, and the final inspection was scheduled for today. And some more good news to share. About 4 o'clock today, he gave us permission to occupy this space too. So got another one under our belt. Crystal Queen might be our Carly Lloyd of the World Soccer Team. She's got 2 projects down, 1 to go. She might get the hat trick. The Marrington Middle School project involves adding a new auditorium and renovating some classrooms. At the last update, I gave you a lesson on earthquake drains. And now you can see that the floor slab, the tilt-up wall panels, steel framing, roof decking have all been erected, and it's starting to look like a new auditorium building. The auditorium building is scheduled to complete in January. So once the school let out at June, all the work crews left the auditorium building and went to the renovation work. The renovation work consists of 5 existing classrooms that were gutted, and they are being reconfigured into 2 new art rooms, a new band room, a chorus room, and a strings room. The renovated classroom spaces need to be open prior to school starts, and the final inspection is scheduled for Thursday, July 30th. Goose Creek High School is being attacked on all sides by construction. This overall slide shows the work going on in areas A, B, C, and D, and also the media center. We have located and summarized the different building areas and completion dates on this first slide to give you an overview of the magnitude of this project. At the bottom of this slide, we have identified key work items for each area. For Summer Crunch, we need to complete work in the media center, the new cafeteria, the new kitchen, and 3 classrooms that are across from the old cafeteria. We feel comfortable with completing the work in the media center, the new kitchen, and cafeteria. But for the classrooms, the contractor is working around the clock on those rooms and is making good progress. The final OSF inspection for this area is scheduled for Tuesday, August 4th. Here are some close-up pictures of the various areas. At the top left corner is the front of Building A, which is the art wing of the building, and its faces Red Bank Road. This building is due to open in October. The top right shows the floors being prepped for the terrazzo, and I was by there yesterday, and they actually brought the huge medallion to put in the middle of the lobby with the big gator eyes, so it's pretty impressive right now. The bottom picture shows the work being done in Area D, where they've also gutted rooms and are rebuilding. You can see they were pouring some concrete footings on a wall, load-bearing wall that didn't have any footings under it. So, we run into these challenges and we have to figure out how to make them work. This next slide shows a picture of the new cafeteria. And look at those gorgeous terrazzo floors. The contractor is using this large space to put together some green shelving that goes into the walk-in freezers and cooler, which is in the kitchen area behind the cafeteria. Here's the picture of the kitchen. The design is similar to Nexton, where the hood is located on the left-hand side. Kitchen designers have found that locating the hood in the center creates a lot of wasted steps encircling the hood. So now they locate it on the side, so the cooks just need to turn around to obtain ingredients and turn back with the finished food. So we've incorporated that design feature in this school too. Here's the last picture, is the courtyard side of the cafeteria. As I stated earlier, August 4th is the important date for Goose Creek High School because that's when we hope to receive the approval to occupy the new cafeteria, kitchen, and the 3 classrooms. Philip Simmons Elementary Middle School. In the last few months, we received the wetland permit, conducted a public meeting, and now the project is wide open and moving fast. The key plan shown in the top right gives you the sequence of the work, where Area A is the main electrical and mechanical room and kitchen. Area B is the 6th grade middle school classrooms, and you can see in the photograph at the bottom of the slide that we actually are having walls go up in that area. This next slide shows Area D, which is the second grade wing. You can see footings are going in and underground plumbing and electrical being installed. Area C is where the multi-purpose room is located, and then the floor slab has been poured. All in all, we've had some great weather the last few months, and the contractor is moving fast. Philip Simmons High School. The wetland permit was received this month, and early site work has started with the installation of the silt fence and tree protection. The architect is finishing up the drawings for the building, and the final set will be issued on July 31st, at which time the bidding period will begin. Last week, we had a meeting with the state inspector and the deputy fire chief from the city of Charleston to go over some access concerns. The temporary roads are being heavily used, and there's concern about emergency vehicle access. It is a very difficult balancing act to determine how much repairs and improvements to put into temporary roads to meet the code wording that it has to be an all-weather drivable surface. So we are discussing with the fire chief to see what we can get away with or not. We are hoping this meeting will allow the city of Charleston to issue their final approval so we can start clearing the site. A few weeks ago, the architect presented the color selections to the steering committee, and as you will see in the next few slides. This color board shows the colors for the different academies. I learned that Berkeley County School District has standard colors they use for their academies, where red represents health science, the orange represents arts and humanities, the blue represents business and hospitality, and the black-gray colors for the STEM Academy. The medallions you see on the slide will be floor designs where the corridors come together. In the center of the board, you can see the neutral colors selected for the bulk of the common spaces in the corridors, while the brighter and bolder colors will be used for accents in each of the academies to distinguish one space from another space. This slide has a picture of the color board for the area called the Technology Forest and Cafeteria. The carpet, which has been selected for the Media Center and administrative office space, is also shown, and it blends well with the other colors. The architect wanted to provide a timeless, neutral palette and give a feeling of professionalism and elegance. This final color board denotes the finishes for the auditorium spaces. As you can see, many of the previous colors are being repeated, so the entire school will blend together. The carpet on the left will be used in the aisle of the auditorium. The rendering on the top of the page is a wall section of the auditorium, showing how the acoustical panels and wall finishes will look once it is complete. Between the carpet samples is a lighter burnt orange fabric for the auditorium chairs, and the richer, darker fabric on the bottom is for the stage curtains. The new Tanner Foster Creek Elementary School. Meeting was held with the citizens on July 13th, and I just need to remind you, and I know this isn't good news, but it's my job. It takes about 24 months to design and build an elementary school, and the goal was to try to get this school open by August 2017. So if we don't have a final agreement on some property by next month, this completion date will probably have to slip again. Fox Bank Elementary School. I called the developer today, and he indicated his consultant will be submitting the application for updating the wetland delineation to the Army Corps of Engineers next week, and believes that the on-site inspection should occur no later than the second week in August. Once the new delineation has been reviewed by the Army Corps of Engineers, then we should be able to start the traffic study. Since the opening date for this school is August of 2018, and it takes 24 months, we're currently on schedule with this school. In summary, we are making good progress this summer and have 2 more final inspections to go through. Fortunately, the state inspectors have worked with us in turning over portions of the work and coming back to check the unfinished work at a later date. Additionally, the new high school building should be out for bid in a few weeks, and if all goes well, we anticipate seeing you in early October to try to get approval for the GMP on that project. So, any questions?
Go ahead.
Can you go back to the slide where it showed the medallions for Philip Simmons High School?
Sure.
My question about that is, number one, are we committed to those? Have we already committed to those? Because as we all know, things in education change from time to time, and I hate the idea of having a floor medallion that limits us on what we can do in that high school. If it says that this is, and I'm slightly blind at this point, I didn't bring my glasses tonight, I can't read what they say, but if it's,
The red is the health and science, and the orange is the humanities, so on and so forth.
if we happen
What we're
to
doing
change-
now, they're placeholders, so we
Okay.
can get a bid for that. And before we'll go forward with installing it, we usually come back and, especially to Mr. Jackson, and say, are we ready to go with these medallions? We need to have approval. We did that with Mr. Husky and some of the other schools, and also Miss Lee at Nexton. When the medallion was designed, they had to have their signature to sign off before we went forward with it. So in a couple years, maybe, once we get under construction and we get to that point, hopefully we'll have a principal at that time, and they'll kind of make those decisions with help with Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
So-
Because my thought on that is our gators are not changing. Goose Creek is always going to have the gators.
Right.
And the gator eyes, I think that's pretty cool. But the idea of having our career academies, and I'm fully in support of our academies, please don't think that I'm changing my opinion of that, but to lock ourselves down in this model for years and years and years.
The other thing, they haven't picked the mascot yet.
Right.
So
Yes.
if I have something in the bid that they had to bid, I have the cost covered. So if
Okay.
we change it to something else, at least I have that cost covered.
That I like, thank you.
That was actually brought up to me, what was it, a couple of days ago, by Dr. O'Gorman. He actually mentioned that there is a possibility to keep the medallion, keep the colors, but eliminate the words, and it still has the same concept, but gives you that flexibility if we need to change somewhere down the line.
That I like, yes, thank you.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off your comment too, I know it's got arts on there and it's also got STEM, but one of the big things that's been pushed for this school is that it's a STEAM school, and so there's a difference between STEM and STEAM, and so if we put STEM there, I think the community's probably gonna get pretty fired up about that. Isn't that right, Dr. Turner? He was at the meeting.
I think we were talking about elementary and middle school
Gotcha.
STEAM. I don't know that they really had a prototype for a STEAM high school, but maybe we can find one if you're that interested.
Mr. Chairman, I would encourage you and the superintendent to have a conversation regarding, I don't know what the best timing is to determine the mascot and school colors, but we're getting awful close with Ms. Myers and her folks needing to determine what that entranceway should look like. I would recommend, once you've made your decision, making sure you include all board representatives that live in the Daniel Island Clements Ferry area. And I would also recommend Mr. Frank Wright to chair that committee when that time has come. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Wright is a former graduate of Cane Hoa High School. He will not tell me the year he graduated, but I think he would serve as a wonderful chair of that very important committee, representing the community and determining a mascot and colors that will last for decades. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for having so much trust in me, Dr. Murray, but we'll make certain that we do the best job we possibly can.
I love it. I love
Make
it.
everybody happy.
It's going to be a good one, I'm sure.
I think Mr. Philip Simmons would be proud of us.
He would be. He would be, yeah.
So that the scroll work on the elementary and middle school and their medallions is one of my favorite parts of that school to really honor Philip Simmons, and I'm hopeful. I know this isn't the final design, but I'm hopeful we'll incorporate that in the high school as well.
Well, I was really thinking about Philip Simmons' Iron Gate. The Iron Gate would pretty much serve as the mascot and Iron Gate, you know, something that really talks about Philip Simmons. I think it would not be good to name the school Philip Simmons High and then eliminate anything that has to do with ironwork. So Philip Simmons Iron Gate, very strong, like the steel curtain.
Yeah, the blacksmiths.
Yeah, blacksmith. Cool. Hey,
He played on the defensive
Okay.
line. That's why he wants to call it Iron Gate. Well, we look forward to hear what your committee comes up with.
Absolutely.
Very good.
I think that's going to be an interesting discussion.
Yes.
Any other questions from the board?
On the Fox Bank Elementary School, I can't remember, did we not have enough land space to make the same type of school we have at Cane Bay and Nexton?
No, we don't on that
Okay.
part. We got to do a two-story on that piece of property.
Vertical.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Ms. Myers.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson? This time, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, the human resources, items for information. Dr. Levine?
See. And Jerome, I cannot see it. I left my glasses at home too.
Okay. We'll be blind together.
All right, awesome. Thank you. All right, good evening, Board Chair Hayes, Interim Superintendent Turner, and other board members. It is definitely a privilege to stand before you again this evening because we were together not too long ago with some information about the Human Resources Department, and I said it's always an honor to share with you what we're doing. And you know, there are people who really believe that we don't do anything during the summertime, okay? There still is that out there, but I am hoping that after you see some of the numbers that it will make people think a little bit differently about what we do in terms of HR, because this is the time of year that we are on it and definitely rolling. And we're happy to do it because we know that everything we do is for the children and the families of Berkeley County, and we love doing what we do. Very important statement here. Advanced Ed 2010 report, and I think some of you were here for that. The greatest strength of the Berkeley County School District, passionate, dedicated, and highly skilled staff members who are committed to lifelong learning. And I am privileged to say that I really believe that this day, 5 years after that, this is still going to be the case when we go through our accreditation process again come November of this year. Just some information for you for new hires. If you look at that, I'd like for you to compare what we did last year in comparison to what we've already done this year, and you will also see what's left. And I know one of the things that comes up typically when you see that type of difference in numbers there is how in the world are we hiring so many more people? Well, the truth of the matter is we have some new allocations in there, but I want you to keep in mind also that our number of retirees and people leaving the profession for other reasons, people who are transferring to other school districts, leaving for other states, some with spouses relocating for whatever reason, all of that comes into play as well. And if you look at the reasons there, you will see the source in terms of where the individuals came from for the groups there. So in-state teacher education programs, the alternative certification programs, retired educators. The truth of the matter is we need educators from a variety of areas to fill our needs. So you'll see that as we go through the presentation here as well. And next, our vacancies. And Julie, just nod if this is the case. I think we're a little bit lower than 18 right now. We are moving constantly and happy to do it. Julie does all of our job offers for our certified teachers, our staff members there, and she calls, she's on the phone constantly. So I want you to see this is what we have left right now, but I am truly thinking it's closer to 12 at this particular point. So we are thrilled. And remember now, we always tell everyone, we are all recruiters for Berkeley County School District. So it's not just HR. So if there are folks you know and you go on AppleTrack to employment opportunities on our webpage, you can see exactly what's left at this point. But as I said earlier, it changes constantly. So we're down from this now, but you all know what our goal is. We don't want to have any vacancies to open the school year whatsoever. And really, we know that things happen during the course of the year, but we want a certified teacher in every class for our students. Just wanted you to see a few of the recruitment strategies, and some of you have seen part of this before and are somewhat familiar with it, but you know we do the teacher recruitment fair around March, and some of you come and you attend that with us and greet our individuals who come for that. We also do the winter recruitment reception in December, and that's mainly for our college grads who are coming out in December, the beginning of December, and that gives them the opportunity to come and meet with us and to also sit down and have chats with principals about what opportunities are available at their schools. You look at the list there, teacher to teacher.com. Sarah, of course, that's a constant. We'll never leave Sarah. Project Create, that is something through South Carolina State University that's aimed at getting some folks who are interested in going the education route, who are presently, for the most part, teaching assistants going into the classroom, because we found that if they're already with us and we can help them get certified in that area, they're more likely to stay with us. And of course, we know about our teacher cadet program, awesome program where we have a whole lot of students who are going into that at the different schools. And some of them, not all of them now, who are in the teacher cadet programs at schools actually go on to major in that. But we feel that this is where we kind of get our hooks in them, so to speak. And what we're trying to do is to help show them what the love is in terms of teaching and educating our students. And then you see ABCTE. I have to add there that we also had a teacher for the entire nation who was recognized at Cane Bay High School, Shelley Delpiaz, just a couple of years ago for being the Teacher of the Year with that particular program. And then you see some other things that we have listed there. We just have to look for different avenues in terms of the recruitment process. There is no one size fits all with this, so we have to do what it takes. And believe it or not, it's not beyond us to put out letters and to call some of our retired teachers and ask them when we don't have vacancies that we can fill right away, if they would please, 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 pretty please, with sugar on top, come back and help us out. And we are so happy to say that many of them have said yes to that. So once Berkeley County School District, always Berkeley County School District, and we've seen that kind of dedication. Okay, for the 2014-15 recruitment, just wanted to show you what we did for this year. You can look at the list there. I'm not going to read all of that to you, but I just want you to see some of the sites that, that we've gone to for this year, and that would be Julie Rogers, and you'll also see Shelley Green. You know Julie and Shelley, they're always on the move. So they go to a variety of sites, and what you'll notice is that some of these colleges, universities, or programs have certain specialties. So we go there when we know, for example, if we've had a vacancy at a certain location, or we know we have certain math vacancies to fill, and there's several, you know, there are certain places that we go for middle level, certain places that we go for fine arts. So we just want you to see a few of them that we have listed there. And you can see some of the additional ones here as well. And again, like I said, there's no one size fits all in terms of this, just going to colleges and universities. We also go to the conferences as well in the name of recruiting. And I don't think we added this one, but I also went to the College of Charleston this year for the Call Me Mr. program. They had a wonderful event in October, and we got to see a group of African American males from all across the state of South Carolina who were there for that. So we're trying to recruit any and every way we can. And I wanted you to also see the new hire trend, and remember what I said earlier about the numbers. And I know sometimes we go up and we come down, and I think one of the years you see there, do you remember anything significant about 2009-10? That was a very significant year in terms of cuts and budget cuts. And one of the things that was so significant about Berkeley County in terms of a comparison with other school districts, not a single person got furloughed in the midst of doing all of this, okay? There were other districts that furloughed people, that cut days, that did some things, but Berkeley County never did that, and also protected the classroom in terms of size. So there's a commitment there. So I don't want you to be too alarmed as you see that going from the 172 and going up. Yes, there were some positions added. However, I want you to always keep in mind the number of retirees also affects that, the number of teachers who are leaving the profession. So there are other things and there are other factors there as well. And also, if you look at our teacher composition by gender there, and I don't think you will see too big of a surprise. You look at the gray, you see the males, and then you look at the yellow and you see the number of females. Look at that. You see for your elementary, 5% in comparison to 95. You see it goes up slightly higher for males as you get to middle school, and then your highest, of course, is there at the high school level. And that's a trend that is pretty much a nationwide trend in terms of what we see there. But I wanted you to be aware of what's here in Berkeley County, and also to let you know that within this, we're also pretty steady overall with the percentage of African American minority teachers, which for us is about 14% overall. And we know that a neighboring district that that spends a whole lot more on recruitment is actually at about 15%. So we actually spend less, and we get pretty much the same bang for our buck in terms of what we're doing there. Teacher evaluation update. Now, I don't have all the figures for this upcoming year in terms of what you're going to see. Do you remember we talked about recertification back when? I shared some information with you a couple of months ago, and we said that all these teachers who are up for recertification are going to have to do some form of a formal evaluation. Our total on that, and that's at the school level, is actually about 250 at this particular point. That's not included in these numbers that you see here. But I want you to see where things are going, what we're predicting for this year. So far, 106 Pride teachers. Those are our new babies that we are so happy to have with us, our first year teachers. And then diagnostic assistants. That's our teachers who've been with us in most cases already, who need some assistance. So diagnostic assistants, we're going to work with them, get them acclimated to the evaluation process before we do the formal evaluation. We have the induction level 2 teachers. That means we need to provide more support to them, because their induction level 1, they might have been somewhat so successful, but we know that we can do some things to strengthen them and provide additional support. And if you look at the safety numbers there, 268 full-fledged formal evaluations done through this office. So keep that in mind, the Office of Leadership and Evaluation. And then safety for second year, we have a total of 14 there. Can you tell that we're pretty busy? Okay, and then look at the activities that are conducted. And of course, kudos to Mr. Davis, who led that division in the past. And now we're happy to have Dr. McLaren heading it up and everything. And she has really hit the ground running, and she's doing a marvelous job. But I just wanted you to see some of the sessions that are offered by that group last year, and we'll continue those sessions this year. And you also notice at the very bottom on the left side there, the SLO sessions. Oh yes, we have a lot to do. Student learning objectives. We have a lot of training to do in that, and I always tell you all, and you know this is me, if anyone can do it and do it well, I believe Berkeley County can. And remember now, for some of these things, it's not Berkeley County School District saying this is what we want to do and we want to do this ourselves. These are mandates that are coming to us from the State Department of Education. So we're following through, and that's why I throw that little plug in. If anyone can do it well, that we can do it well. Okay, Office of Leadership Development Evaluation Activities for 15-16. This is just a few highlights from what you've already seen there. So Pride teachers, 106, you saw the formal, and then diagnostic assistants, providing assistance and coaching. You gave us 2 full release mentors last year that assisted us, and were able to go from school to school and provide support for our teachers. That is needed in such a major way. I talked to you about statistics the last time I was before you, about the number of teachers who leave the profession after a very short time if they don't get that type of support. So I want you to know that in Berkeley County, we do believe in providing support. And we don't believe in the evaluation process as a gotcha deal. Oh, you're not doing the right thing and we're going to move you on. No, we're not going to do that. And in the words of our former superintendent from several years back, I believe it was Dr. Floyd, who said, if they're not good, we're going to help them get good. So that's what we believe in doing. So we provide that type of support. Okay, and just some additional professional development activities there, sharpen your skills. I can't say enough about the Office of Leadership and Evaluations and what our evaluators do in terms of providing those types of sessions for professional development, sharpen your skills that focus on all of these different areas. We do it because we want to support our teachers. Now, I want you to also see the numbers as far as staff, and that's based on totals for this year. So if you look at that in terms of the number of administrators, the number of teachers, and then support staff. And remember now, all of this is at the school level, okay? So 3,647 total. Next slide. For professionals, now this includes our bus drivers, our professionals at the district level, support staff, and you see all the groups included in their maintenance, special education, technology, Head Start, and classified, 627. So for a grand total for us of 4,274 employees, okay? And please understand this, there are definitely two departments that have to touch everybody flowing through Berkeley County School District. And that would be Human Resources, of course, and the Finance Department. So believe me, when we touch and we try to give the personal touch, when people stop in to see us and they want to talk to us about an issue or something that's going on, you do realize that we stop what we're doing and we spend the time. And Dr. Turner sent me an email this weekend, working late again, huh? Yes, we do that because that's what it takes for us to get the job done and make sure that we take care of our employees. And now, just for an update for you, the Emergency Catastrophic Leave Program, or what we call the ECLP program. And this is a program that's designed for individuals who may have some type of emergency catastrophic event. It could be dealing with their health. It could be some kind of emergency involving family members. But we actually have what we used to call, do you remember, a sick leave bank? Well, this is better than that because it's more focused on the emergency and catastrophic situations that could come up and not just sick leave. So we have people who donate a day in October, and then we also have a group that is the committee that decides, and by the way, let me add this in also. Now, you know, as far as medical conditions are concerned by HIPAA, there is no way for us to share medical information with individuals. So the individuals who are serving on that particular committee for ECLP get information just about the case itself, the bare bones in terms of what they need to know, and they make a determination as to whether days are given or days are not given. And as you can imagine, there are some things that don't fall under emergency or catastrophic leave. So those would be the cases in which things would basically be denied. But if you look at the number of days there, if you look at 2013-14, you will see that 1,656 total days were awarded. And let me add this in. If those days were not awarded, those individuals would not have gotten paid. So keep that in mind. That means they have run out of, if they had vacation days, if they had sick leave days, they are gone, okay? So that's when this takes effect. And for this past year, we brought forward 587 days, and look at the number of days donated there. So we're basically steady there with over 2,000 days being donated. Look at the number of leave requests and also the leave requests approved. And this year we'll be carrying over 933.5 days. So something good, and again, I have to reiterate, this does not exist everywhere. There are places where once you run out of sick leave days, it is over, and you're not going to get paid until you come back to work. But we know we have awesome employees, and we feel obligated because this is a family environment. We feel obligated to do everything that we can do to help. Okay, any questions?
Dr. Levine, have we filled all of our bus driver positions?
No, ma'am. We have not filled all the bus driver positions, but we are currently working on that. And if you see that we're advertising on our website right now for the driver positions, and they are constantly training. So no. So please, if any of you can help us with recruiting bus drivers, we will take it. We will take it. Audience, that goes for you too, okay? We will take it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Is there any way that we can get, the slide that you put out there said how many school level employees we have and how many district level employees we have for our total number of employees? Mr. Jackson and I were at the county council meeting last night and speaking to a county council member, and he had questions about that. And I didn't have the numbers accurate, to be able to provide to him, and that's something that I would just like for us to be able to share with the
Sure.
public.
Definitely.
Maybe, I don't know if we can get that on our website or not.
Good.
Because I think
Definitely.
that's something that people need to see, that we are focused on getting these employees in the schools and not, as people would say, fat cats in the district office.
Exactly.
No offense, Dr. Turner.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn.
That's all.
You be good, Mr. Franchitti. But yeah, there, just in terms of numbers, I know that surprises people from time to time in terms of where folks are located. But yes, we're very heavy, very much so heavy on schools and the support provided to schools. And as you might imagine, over the years, especially with our special needs population expanding, we have had a need for more special education teachers. We've had a need for additional support for our special needs students, which also goes along with sometimes, and Dr. Whitley can tell you, adding nurses to assist some of our students, our medically fragile students as well. So there has been a lot that's needed to happen, and we're still providing a great education for our children, but it really takes this to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Dr.
Okay,
Pink.
and you haven't gotten rid of me just yet.
I know.
So let's go on to the second one. Oh, come help me, Jerome. I just need to go ahead and get contacts, right? And I won't have to remember glasses. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. The accreditation report. There are a lot of people who, once they hear about accreditation, they start frowning. But I'll tell you what, for Berkeley County, and you'll see in just a few minutes, we have a whole lot to celebrate in terms of where we are and what we've done this year. And I'll be distinguishing between this, and I know some of you are saying, wait a minute, accreditation, and you're going to see things about the State Department of Education, because we talked about advanced ed just recently. And you'll see, yes, we are doing advanced ed. We're actually doing two things. One through the state of South Carolina, and then the overall advanced ed, or SACS, accreditation process also. Wait a minute, that's not right. I got it. Okay, all right, thank you. So what exactly is state accreditation? And you will see this, and I know as board members especially, and those in the audience who've done the research on this, you know that there are many, many regulations that are out there in terms of requirements. And you'll see there that schools and school districts have to provide a defined educational program. It can't be every district who's in South Carolina doing what is wanted in that particular location, but there are strict, specific things that have us in compliance with state accreditation standards and all applicable State Board of Education regulations and relevant statutes as outlined by South Carolina Code of Laws. And Regulation 43-300 amended, and this was effective June 27th of last year, districts and individual schools reported for accreditation and monitoring as all clear now have two options for accreditation. And I have to go back and give you a little bit of history. In 2013, we were notified that we were going to have a desk audit done, which means that we had to provide a bunch of information to our auditor at the state level in terms of our classes, in terms of Power School. There was a time that it was just taken for granted that, okay, well, you say you're doing this, I believe you're doing this. Well, now with the State Department of Education, there's Power School, and there's information that can be pulled automatically, and information that we have to provide in terms of classes that students are taking. Okay, for option one, districts and schools may be accredited through the South Carolina Department of Education, of course, that's what we want there. And option 2, districts and schools may choose to be accredited by Advanced Ed or Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. But remember now, we can only do option 2 if we have cleared all hurdles as far as option number 1 is concerned. And that means with the State Department of Education, we have to be all clear. District, schools, everything has to be all clear. Now, I want you to understand this. If you have one situation at a school that doesn't fall within those guidelines that I previously mentioned, that means you can't get an all clear. It's not going to happen. And I don't care if 99.9% of things fall within what would give a clear status, that remaining percent is going to cause you to not have an all clear. So for option 1, you see their schools and district administrators do this annually, and it really was a checkoff list at one point, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, by my research, I think we did it the last time we had a really serious one was in 1991, so it was a long time. But here we get this information about the desk audit in 2013. But remember, you have to comply with everything. And if you have that 1% that causes it to be not clear, you cannot do just the advanced ed option or just the SACS option. Okay, and here's just some information about option 1 in terms of what's expected as far as a defined program. And you see the list, the Roman numerals there on the left in terms of what's expected. And for each of those items, you'll see just a plethora of information on the site about that as far as option 1 and 43-300. Okay, State Department of Education Common Accreditation Deficiencies. Curriculum and instructional requirements not meeting standard for defined minimum program. And I listed there as an example, physical education. There would be a certain number of minutes required. If you're not within that as far as minutes, that means you're not clear. And we were notified by the State Department 2 years ago that our students weren't getting enough minutes in PE, and as a result of that, we increased the PE allocations for the elementary schools. So yeah, it was a had to kind of thing. It wasn't a choice. It was something that we had to do, because remember, if you do not meet the requirements that established, all clear as far as accreditation is not going to happen. And then the other part there, operations and procedures out of compliance with accreditation standards. And we learned something very good through this process. We had principals doing the right thing because they were doing it in terms of scheduling and making sure that their teachers were aware and the kids knew exactly where they should go for classes. But they had an assistant's name in the computer as the teacher of record. You can't do that. You can't have that in Power School with the assistant. You have to have the certified teacher there. So again now, this isn't something that, that was brought to our attention until we had this desk audit. So it was wonderful. So we were able to find things that we could fix and really take care of. Okay, and just another list there for deficiencies. Teachers not meeting certification requirements for being deemed highly qualified. And I put there as an example, teachers in the middle school who do not hold middle level certification. That note at the bottom is very important. State Board of Education voted at the June 10th, 2015 meeting that teachers with a secondary content area certification are also certified to teach at the middle level in that content area. Now, you see the date there, June the what? June the 10th, right? So now, you know we had gotten notification that that was not the case and that we had to make all of these changes. So if we had a secondary content certified person in the middle school, we were told that they couldn't do that because we needed middle level. So we were working vigorously to do that and to make all of those changes. We were working in the process of transferring and reassigning, and then we get that on June. So we made some changes. Some of them we were able to go back and change. Others are still in effect, but our principals worked with us so well to make sure we got that done. Okay, and then option 2, this is only if you are completely all clear in option number 1. Can you go just with this? But you'll see in just a few minutes, we weren't all clear at some of our areas, and I'll give you the reasons and rationale as to why, because I definitely want you to know this. Okay, so advanced ed, and this is what we talked about before, about the systems process, and you all had an entire presentation about advanced ed. I think you are good with advanced ed and knowing what's required with advanced ed, so I'm not going to linger on this. Now, accreditation ratings by State Department of Education. We always want to have, for every school, for every entity, we want to have accredited and all clear, because that says there are no deficiencies, there are no areas where you might have someone who is teaching out of field, out of certificate. So that's the one we want. Accredited advise. This is when the next phase begins. If you're not completely clear, and look at that, indicates that a district or school is not in compliance with the standards for a defined program and with all current statutes and regulations. Keep in mind now, this could be that 1%, that one thing that could cause you to go from all clear to advise. So it doesn't have to be 10, it could be 1. Okay, and then after advise, the next level, if you've had this deficiency for a second year, and it's the same type of situation, you go from being advised to having the warn status. Same thing there, but they're still telling you, we're giving you the opportunity to fix it and to make it right. And then the next part, accredited but on probation. So this means that deficiency has existed for 3 years now. And that's where we don't want to go there at all. And then the last part, can we just not talk about that one at all? Accreditation denied. We don't want that for any of our schools. And you'll see some salient points in there as you look at that. Go down to about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 from the bottom. Schools which have been classified as accreditation denied by the defined program accreditation procedures shall not be eligible for funding in the following fiscal year until an acceptable plan to eliminate the deficiencies is submitted and approved by the State Board of Education. That's really serious there. We're not going to get there, so don't worry about that. Great news for Berkeley County. All schools and district entities were identified as accredited for the 2014-15 school year. Can we please clap on that? Let me make sure everybody's awake. It's a great thing. We always need to celebrate good things. This is definitely a good thing. And we didn't get the update until the end of June, but we were pleased, of course, to see this. And I want you to know also that when you start working with this, and I can't say enough about Julie Rogers. She does a great job in terms of working with the accreditation report and getting it down to what it is. Sometimes we have to do things like send in a job description because they add someone on the list and no, this isn't right. So we have to go through this to take it down to where it ends up being. So I'm just going to go through a few more slides with you. Wanted you to know that as far as the accredited status there, for the Board of Trustees, District Operations, Adult Ed, and Middle College, you see all clear there. And I want you to know something interesting as well. If a board member, and it was reported, and we knew it wasn't correct at one time, that a board member didn't go to a training session when they first got on the board, and we were able to track down the paperwork and show them, oh yes, it did happen. So it's just about providing proof. So we're good. So awesome there, all clear for all those entities. The next part, I divided it up just in terms of the elementary, then the middle, and the high as far as the accreditation results. And I want you to see that for the accredited there, 18 all clear. Accredited advised 1, remember that's the first level, and then warned at level 3. But I want you to know this in terms of things that happen. Sometimes you see there, sometimes we have a substitute teacher. Something could happen with the teacher and we've had the substitute teacher in the classroom for a period of time. Also, you see there for the accredited warn part, changes in special education requirements for teachers. One of the things that we now know is if we have a cross-categorical class in which we have a variety of disabilities in the class, one of the requirements now that did not exist at one time is you have to have a teacher in place whose certification matches the greatest number of kids in that class, so the majority of students who are in the class. So I don't want you to think that that means you had uncertified teachers. It's just that now this requirement asks us for something different than was expected before. And also now for the middle level, you see there for all clear, 7, and then accredited warned, 3, and some of the same things that we talked about before. Changes in certification requirements for business classes. Example, your keyboarding teachers have to be certified in business instead of elementary education now. That was a change. Substitute completed the school year. Again, if something happens with a teacher and there's not a teacher, a permanent teacher of record, but I want you to also know that when we get certified or substitute teachers in the classroom and we know they're going to be in there an extended period of time, we want a substitute who is certified in that particular area, but the substitute is not their teacher of record. So you need to know that also. And then an additional area of middle level certification needed for 2 classes. Someone was teaching 2 classes, and just because they were teaching the 2 classes that may have been different, slightly different from what their certification status was, that means they could not get an all clear. And now let's look at the high schools. Accredited all clear, 1 at that level, and then none for advised, and then warned, 6. And changes regarding courses that can be taught by CTE teachers. That was a change this year in terms of what they could do and what they could teach. Changes in special education requirements for teachers, and also if a certificate is issued late, and by the time we submit all of this information to the State Department of Education, if that certificate is not in, even though it's on the way, we still can't give ourselves credit for that. So that's how it's going to end up looking in the overall report. But I also want you to know this, the steps that we're taking to address deficiencies, and by the way, you also need to know that the majority of them have already been cleared up. Okay, we're doing staff development for administrators on accreditation. That happened last week, Tuesday, as a matter of fact, and Julie did that for us, because we want to make sure our administrators know what's required. There's one thing I can tell you about Berkeley County School District administrators: if they know what's expected, they will do it, and they will follow through. So we knew that part of the issue was that because we hadn't gone through this process in so long, they were unaware of some of the requirements. So going through that at summer leadership helped, definitely. And also we're going to continue to recruit at specific colleges and universities, because remember, we're looking for certain majors, certain certifications in different areas. And then third there, advisement for teachers regarding certification requirements. Again, just like our administrators, if our teachers know what's expected and what's required and what they need to do, and by the way, I have to add, in some cases with our teachers, it's a matter of taking the test, taking the praxis in that area, and being deemed highly qualified as a result of doing that, okay? We also have continued to work with paraprofessionals who are pursuing certification in areas with the greatest need. Remember what I said earlier about people who are currently working with us, our employees as teaching assistants, especially in special education classrooms. We want them to go on and become certified teachers. These are people who have great hearts, and then we just want to encourage them and give them what they need to continue. And also last, we're going to continue to provide assistance through the Office of Federal and State Programs to assist teachers meeting certification requirements. And that includes the grandfathering for the early childhood certified teachers who are working with preschool self-contained students. Remember what I told you, some things changed this year, and some things we knew some things were coming down the pike, so to speak, and we're always constantly working to get them done. We're not going to rest until it's completely done. We don't want to see advised. We don't want to see warned for any of our schools. So I want you to know that we're working on that, and Julie does a fabulous job. Again, I just can't give her enough credit, and also the other members of the HR department. So that's it. And if you have any questions, I know I've been talking for a very long time. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Questions? Dr. Levine, you did a good job.
Awesome.
No
Thank
questions.
you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Moving on to agenda item number 9, instruction accountability. Item for information, mathematics teacher leader, Dr. O'Gorman.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Turner, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Melissa Negreros. She had this crazy idea that she could get teachers excited about math training. Couldn't believe it could happen, but she did. We had an outstanding turnout, and so she's going to tell you about the program and how many participants we had and what they learned. She's our elementary math content coordinator.
Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Dr. Turner, and members of the board. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share about the Mathematics Teacher Leader program with you. I want to start by saying I hope that it comes out through this short presentation the amount of dedication and effort that went into this on the part of the teachers. They really spent a lot of after school time coming to the sessions and completing homework. I gave them homework at the sessions, and so I hope that comes out. At the end of each of our sessions, I'm going to tell you a little bit about those in a minute. I had them complete what we call exit slips in the world of education, but it's basically a reflection sheet that they tell what they learned, what they want to know more about, what was helpful to them. So throughout the presentation, I've included some of their quotes, and they're anonymous, so I don't have their names with them, but so you'll read those. I'm not going to read them to you. I also included some of the pictures of the teachers who participated in the program. It started with, like Dr. O'Gorman said, a lot of times in elementary school, the teachers are really comfortable with teaching reading and not as comfortable with teaching math concepts. And even teaching math concepts to kindergarten students can be a complicated task. So there's a need in Berkeley County and really nationwide to address this area. First of all, a lot of times as teachers, I know when I was in the classroom I did this, we teach math the way we were taught math, which focuses a lot on procedures without a lot of connection to meaning. There was a need to address this specifically because too few students are attaining high levels of mathematical proficiency. And that is because of this kind of hyper focus on procedures and not understanding, or the procedures that are disconnected from understanding. So what we did was the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics, which is the national kind of group that publishes a lot of articles, does a lot of research on math education. They had a new publication last year that highlighted 8 mathematical teaching practices that they called high leverage. And what they meant by high leverage was these are ones that can really impact student achievement, student understanding. So we had 8 sessions, and I'll tell you a little bit about those in a minute, but they were designed around these 8 high leverage practices. The goal was to provide ongoing and embedded professional development for teachers to strengthen what was already going on in the classroom. And by embedded, I mean that we wanted for them to actually take what they were learning in these after-school sessions and apply it to their classroom practice. And we wanted it not to be one-shot PD sessions, but ongoing throughout the entire year. I'm not going to read each of these to you, but these are each of the practices that we focused on. We talked a lot about using the idea of math talk, having our students talk to each other, talk about how they're solving problems, and really, impacting our students in that way. So those are the 8 practices. These sessions were open to all teachers, and they could pick and choose the sessions that they wanted to come to. But if they wanted to receive the recognition of Berkeley County School District Mathematics Teacher Leader, they were required to attend 7 of the 8 sessions throughout the school year and complete the accompanying homework. And I'm going to show you some examples of the homework in a minute. I have to say again, this is where the dedication on the part of the teachers really came out. These sessions, for the most part, were held from 3:30 to 6:30 on Tuesday afternoons. So they finished teaching, finished with their duty, and then came to sit 3 hours for a professional learning development session. And they also had to go back and complete the assignments. Most of the time we had the sessions once a month. I mentioned the homework. I tried to develop the homework in a way that it was really going to impact their teaching practice. And one of the homework assignments was particularly helpful to the teachers and to the district as a whole. We saw a need for some of the strategies that are in the standards are different than maybe what teachers are familiar with and what parents are familiar with. So one of the assignments was for the teachers to select one of these strategies or one of these methods and create a cheat sheet or a how-to video that they can use and teachers across the district can use to share with parents, to post on Facebook walls, just to really kind of help parents and even help teachers understand the math that their students are learning. So this is one example. This example was put together by the coaches and teachers at College Park Elementary, some of them. Here is another example that was put together by Malia Stewart at Sangaree Intermediate. You'll notice that she kind of was taking, okay, this is what the standard says, and putting it, illustrating it so that parents, teachers could understand exactly what that meant. This is another cheat sheet or how-to sheet that was put together by two of our teachers at Boulder Bluff Elementary. That was Amy Owen and Marilyn Edmonds. Some of our coaches also received this recognition, and here's an example of one of the how-to videos. And our idea for this was that they could use this to post on Facebook walls and things like this. This was Jennifer Bowen at Devon Forest. She is the Title I facilitator, part-time coach.
All right, today I'm going to show you how students can use base 10 blocks to help them learn how to add two-digit numbers. So starting with 33 plus 21, the student with their place value knowledge would build each number separately. So we can use, these would represent the 10s for 30, and then the 1s for 33, and then to add two 10s for the 20 and the 1. Then the student could combine all of these to find out there are 5 10s and then 4 1s to give them the answer 54. You can also further use this method when it's time to start using regrouping numbers. So for the next problem, they would build the 27, which I have built right here, and then the 44, 4 10s and 4 1s. They would then use their place value knowledge to know that they could trade out 10 of the 1s for another 10, and then be able to see that you have 7 10s and 1 1 to make an answer of 71.
And those are just a few of the examples. The plan is we need to go into some of those assignments and change the standards out because they were written on our old standards, but the plan is to create a bank of those that teachers have access to so that it can support them in their instruction. These teachers, we did not pay them to come. We gave them very little to spend 3 hours of their afternoon at Min Riv or at some of our other schools. So what they did get was some certificate renewal points. They got a plaque for their classroom doors, and what I learned through this is teachers will do anything for a plaque for their classroom doors. They also received what we called bling, and it's a little button that they wear on their lanyards that show we had 8 sessions. There was a button that had a number 1 on it all the way through 8. And I told them they were allowed to miss 1 session, but nobody wanted to be missing a button. So that was all that they got in addition to the learning, of course, that they achieved. And I haven't read any of the other quotes, but I am going to read this quote to you because to me it really painted a picture of how this program was impacting teachers at a classroom level. She said, and I know that this was a 5th grade teacher because she circled grade 5 on her sheet. I can't even put into words how much I love these classes and how they continue to make me a better teacher. My students know I'm taking this class, and now they look for me to get another pen. She's talking about the bling. They know that means how we do math is going to change. Yesterday, I told them that I was coming here today, which then sparked a discussion, brainstorm session of how math time would look different come Tuesday. I love that. Thank you for stretching my thinking. This past year, I repeated the sessions 3 different times. We had the K2 kindergarten through 2nd grade teachers come together, and then we had the 3rd grade through 5th grade teachers come together, and I did a session for the instructional coaches. So this is a picture of the kindergarten through 2nd grade. I chose to use the one where I'm not laying on the floor in front of them. Thought that would be more appropriate. So this is our kindergarten through 2nd grade math teacher leaders, and I have also listed their names for you. Here is one of our K2 teacher leaders and what she had to say about it. She speaks a little low, but the next one is kind of loud, so just listen up. Oh, no, back.
Hi, I'm Stacia Wilson, and I'm a 1st grade teacher here in Berkeley County School District. The Math Teacher Leader Workshop has been a tremendous help for me this year. Transitioning into Berkeley County, this is my first year here, and it has been a great experience. My lessons in teaching my students, they have become more lively and engaged. I've learned a lot of strategies and different things that I can implement in the classroom, and I've been doing that, and my students have benefited greatly from it.
They would kill me for those freeze frames. Here is the picture of our 3rd grade through 5th grade mathematics teacher leaders, and I had to let you guys hear from one of them as well.
My name is Autumn Jernigan. I teach at Sedgefield Intermediate School, and I have loved doing the math teacher leader sessions. I am a better teacher because of it, and my students have greatly benefited from this. They now understand how to have classroom discussions about math talks. They use words like I agree with so-and-so because, or I disagree because. I've learned how to create more engaging formative assessments as well as more engaging tasks with multi-level step math problems. It has been wonderful, and I'm sorry that we didn't do this earlier.
Here is a picture of our coaches who received the recognition and their names. In total, we had 88 kindergarten through 5th grade teachers, instructional coaches, and we did have 1 coordinator who also participated in the program. And that's it for me unless anyone has any questions.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment? Dr. O'Gorman and is it Mrs. Negreros? I'm sorry. I should have listened more closely. Thank you for getting teacher voices in this room and your voice. You're clearly a strong teacher. This is why we're here. So thank you so much. I know that took a lot of time, but it was beautifully done. And thank you, Dr. O'Gorman, for making that possible.
Yeah. Well done.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. Moving on to our agenda item number 10, the superintendent's report, items for information, organizational chart, and then the impact of fee in lieu taxes, FELO revenue on the 2015-16 budget. Dr. Turner.
Thank you, Chairman Hayes and members of the board. In your packets and also electronic submission, you received a copy of the organizational chart with regard to the cabinet reporting to the superintendent. And I'm sorry I don't have an overhead on this, but I'd already mentioned it to you before. What I did was I have increased the number of people reporting directly to the superintendent. Previously, there were only 3 persons who were reporting directly to the superintendent, and that was the chief financial officer, chief administrative officer, and deputy superintendent. I felt that that was somewhat restrictive with regard to people having access and opening lines of communication, and clearly under most management scenarios in business and other areas, the span of control of 7 individuals is not too much for 1 individual to take, so I did that, and now we have the Chief Human Resource Officer reporting directly to the superintendent, the Chief Academic Officer reporting directly to the superintendent, the Executive Director of Secondary Schools, Jerome Davis, and the Director of Elementary Schools, Dr. Susan Gilman, all are reporting directly to the superintendent. I think this will help with regard to opening lines of communication, as I said, and also having more lively discussions in our cabinet. And we now have 9 people in the cabinet, and we're having some wonderful discussions about policy and things that are happening in the district and things that we need to have happen in the district. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. I know you've all seen that before, so if there are any questions about it, I'd be glad to entertain them. If I can move on, the other item, Mr. Chairman, is the impact of fee in lieu of taxes revenue on the 2015-16 budget. I do have a illustration here. Just briefly here, this is a worksheet that I received. I was able to get an appointment with Mr. Tim Callanan. It's going to go this way. Oh, right there at the top. Let's see if oh yeah, I can do it. This is a budget worksheet I received from Tim Callanan, the Deputy Supervisor of Finance for Berkeley County. When I had a meeting with him, I think about a week after we understood that there was a move afoot in the council to change the distribution of fee in lieu of taxes revenue for Berkeley County, and I was able to get a meeting with he and the supervisor and other staff there. I'm going to say this with all sincerity. If you will just have to go to the next slide. Where is that? Got it? This worksheet is the first time in my understanding that the administration of the school district has received any kind of full accounting for the funds that have flown in, have come in from fee in lieu of taxes in any one year. Up at the top up here, it says that there was $31 million that were received totally by the county last year in fee in lieu of taxes. And of that amount, down here at the bottom, and I'm going to read these, there were 3 entries with regard to the school system, 13.9 million with regard to school operating, 4.7 million with regard to school bond, and about $1 million with regard to school lease, for a total of $19,741,780. The reason I show you this is because right here, you know, this is where Mr. Callanan was explaining to me in that meeting that we had an 80% share of about $25 million. Recall I said up here there was a total of $31 million that came in. There is some off-the-top things that are occurring before we get down to the distribution amount, which was supposed to be $26,738,000. So what he was explaining here was that we would receive this year $19,741,780 for this past school year. However, when we received information directly from the treasurer, because we reached the end of year and we were receiving payments all year long, and this is still not verified, we are only about at $19,400,000. We are a bit off with regard to what he thought we were going to receive by the end. I understand this is a worksheet, and that doesn't surprise me at all, but we need some verification to see exactly where we ended up this year, and we don't have it yet. And you see what he was writing here is in terms of going to the 70-30 split, because the total amount to be distributed next year he projected to be 2.4 million more. Our amount at 70% from that would be $19,180,000. As he pointed out, you're only going to be down $561,780 for 1 year, and then you'll bounce back the next year because he has a $31.4 million distribution amount to be distributed. He projects even the next year, which would bring our portion to, at 70-30, $21,980,000. The point I was trying to make, and everybody wanted to focus on this figure here, is that we had already taken quite a chunk of the $31 million for mostly county functions before we ever got to the distribution amount. So it really wasn't 80-20. It was really already, we were at somewhere around 67% of the funds coming to us of the total amount that were collected. We never were at 80% because of these other things that came off the top. The county's paying itself back for some expenses they had with regard to economic development. They are also taking 5% off the top for their economic development office and activities, which is about $1.5 million a year for one office and activity. Those are the things that have been, that has been there traditionally since all the way 10 years ago that I'm aware of. Also, the 1% has to go to Williamsburg County. That's a given. But all the other things, about $5 million worth, are county functions, some of which started in 2010. That's paying back the county for its development work of the industrial park, where Google is located. And we did not receive, we have not received any funds because of that in this distribution down here. We have not received any funds for the second phase of Google because the county is still taking that fee from Google until they paid themselves back for having built the industrial park. So that was a new wrinkle that started in 2010. I was trying to make the point that we weren't getting 80% all along. Starting in 2010, we were getting much less than 80%, and everybody wanted to focus on this in their discussion, and you know why. Or this figure over here. It's even been said, we're down, any way you look at it, if there's 25 or 24.932,995, if there's a 10% shift, certainly we can all move the decimal over 1 and see how much money difference that is. It's not $561,000. You move the decimal over 1 in that, and you're going to get $2.49 million. That's how much we would have had this year if they hadn't moved over 10% in their ordinance to return to 70-30. It is true that 10 years ago it was about 70-30. In fact, it was 69-31. But also 10 years ago there was half as much money in this pot as there is now. That's true, it was 70-30, but then there wasn't this $5 million that was taken off the top either. So what I'm saying is that everybody's sort of looking at this different ways. In the year in which we're having a huge increase that came into the pot altogether, this next year, a $2.4 million increase, we're not going to see any of the improvement. We're not going to see any of the bonus in that because the taxes, in lieu of taxes, the fee in lieu of taxes went up a lot. We're not going to see any of that. What could we do with $2.2 million extra? That's what it would have been. That's 10%. We could have put computing devices in a lot of schools, 1-to-1, which is our dream for our students in Berkeley County that other school districts are beginning to realize in other parts of the state. We could have done that. We would not have wasted the $2.2 million. And any inference from anyone that the school district will waste the money if we give it to them, or we ought to take it away from them because they are wasting it, is really insulting to us, our teachers, and our students. I don't like it. I don't like this dialogue that's going on. I called last night in the council meeting. Please, let's reset our relationship. And the other thing is, we hear people discuss this, Dr. Floyd, Dr. Thompson, and then they start naming the supervisors, as they go through. So we have every superintendent that came in contact over the last 10 or 15 years with a different supervisor had a different discussion, very little of which was in writing. And this right here, thanks to Tim Callahan, is the first real sort of accounting that I've seen and the absolute first projection that I've seen. I would love, and I think the school district would love, to have a projection of this income in April before our budget. We have never had that. And that's not a good way to do business together. That's not a way to be partners together in Berkeley County. That was one of my major points. The other thing I'd like to point out is that before my chief financial officer left for his vacation to give away his niece in marriage in southern France, he and I discussed this as to exactly, because when he left, he didn't see that. He had already left the country. And so he and I had a discussion as to what number did I need to see so we wouldn't get in trouble with our budget. And I'm telling you that the number that's down there for a projection for next year at the 70-30, $19,180,000 is what is projected for our income by Tim Callanan. But I told you already that there was $250,000 less, and if he was projecting on that, then we'll probably receive less than $19,180,000. Hopefully not more than $250,000, because Brantley, in his wisdom, Brantley Thomas, our chief financial officer, had put into our budget with regard to expected revenue $18,757,605. I suggest to you when all the dust settles, he'll be right. And I don't think it'll be any less. So I want to tell all the teachers, we're going to barely by a whisper here look like we're going to be able to keep all of the things we put in the budget for extra teachers and also salary increases. I was asked, why did we choose the lowest salary increase option that we could? I've explained to that person who keeps asking that rhetorically to me, that if we had had more mills, we would have gotten those, because the teachers needed even more increase than what we were able to give them. And the reason we couldn't give them more was because we had to hire 70 teachers to lower class size to what it was before the economic downturn. We did not put anything new in the budget that wasted a single penny. We put things in for the kids with regard to staffing so that they would have a better educational experience. And after that, we put in $3 million for teacher increases in salary. Now, I was told last night also, why didn't we put in increases for the most experienced teachers with masters and 25 years experience, which we didn't put any increases in there for, because that's where we were more competitive with other districts. We put our increases where we were lower than other districts, and that is in our least experienced teachers, etc. And we strategically placed those increases where we were most out of step with our neighboring districts. We are trying our best to do the best we can for our teachers and our students. And I really am really fed up with people implying that we're wasting the taxpayers' money in Berkeley County School District.
You're here. You're here.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, I have called, and I did it on a TV interview this afternoon. We desperately need a memorandum of understanding with the county with regard to these funds. We don't need to do this dance every 5 years between a superintendent and a supervisor and then repeat and have people remember different things and do different things. We ought to have complete sunshine and transparency on all of these figures. We shouldn't be ashamed of to show any of them anytime, or keep any of that secret. There are no secrets in Berkeley County. We know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. Lesson 1, don't show a spreadsheet to a math teacher. Going on to agenda item number 11, the executive session. Do I have a motion that we go into executive session.
You do, Mr. Chair.
Second.
I have a motion that we would go into executive session where we will discuss student attendance appeals. We do have 25 of those. Discussion of employment matters, including appointment of administrators, and an update on some pending matters that we have, and some legal advice on employment and contractual matters. Is there any discussion? Then we have the motion, and it's been seconded. All those in favor of this, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Then we retire to executive session.
Let's do it.